What if I tell you that every event, every encounter, and every circumstance in your life is simply a reflection of your inner world? And in this video, you will discover how to consciously shape your reality through the power of imagination, learning to externalize your deepest assumptions and desires with precision and certainty. This is where it begins. The instant realization that the world outside is not fixed but fluid, waiting to mirror the states you cultivate within yourself. This is how it unfolds, with the understanding that imagination is not a fleeting fancy, but the very blueprint of existence, the invisible hand that carves form from formlessness. This is where truth breaks through, revealing that nothing truly happens outside of you without first existing as a thought, a feeling, a state of consciousness. This is why it matters, because mastery over your imagination is mastery over your life, and every condition that has ever troubled you can be reshaped from the inside. This is where illusion fades, as the false belief that the external world governs you dissolves into the clarity that you are the source of all outward experiences. This is the turning point, where you begin to perceive your thoughts not as private musings but as seeds of reality, capable of producing life-altering consequences. This is where momentum gathers, the energy of sustained assumption propelling you into realms previously considered impossible. This is how subtle shifts in feeling can ripple outward, transforming not only circumstances but relationships, opportunities, and your sense of self. This is where insight deepens, as you learn that living from the end, inhabiting the fulfilled state before its manifestation, accelerates the externalization process exponentially. This is the moment awareness awakens, highlighting the precise alignment between your inner states and outer experiences. This is where curiosity sparks, inviting you to question every habitual thought and feeling that has unconsciously shaped your life. This is where courage forms, empowering you to step boldly into imagined realities without hesitation. This is how certainty manifests, as repeated practice in feeling the wish fulfilled embeds a new state of being that cannot help but externalize. This is where faith ignites, the quiet knowing that your inner world is the only true cause of all outer effect. This is how clarity emerges, showing that doubt and fear only delay or distort the externalization process. This is where the journey shifts, moving from theoretical understanding to practical, tangible creation in daily life. This is where the unseen begins to take shape, as the imagination charged with feeling begins to sculpt your external circumstances with uncanny precision. This is how mastery unfolds, one deliberate assumption at a time, until your outer world faithfully reflects the richness of your inner convictions. This is where the foundation is laid for all that follows, a powerful awareness that the key to transformation lies not in changing the world around you, but in changing the state within. This is where the awakening of imagination plants the first seed, the invisible genesis of a reality that is fully yours to create. Can you imagine a universe where every event, every relationship, and every circumstance is a mirror of your own consciousness, reflecting nothing more than the states you carry within? This is where perception sharpens, revealing that what you see outside is not separate from you, but a projection of your inner world. This is how understanding deepens, as the realization dawns that the external world is never the source of trouble or joy. It is merely a canvas upon which your inner assumptions are painted. This is where awareness expands, showing that each thought, each emotion, each subtle feeling is an architect shaping the contours of your life. This is why it matters, because once you grasp that the world is a mirror, the power to change everything lies entirely within, eliminating the need to manipulate circumstances externally. This is where the shift occurs, moving from reaction to creation, from responding to what appears to taking full responsibility for every manifestation. This is how freedom emerges, the liberation from the illusion that you are subject to events beyond your control. This is the turning point, as you begin to recognize that the law of externalization works ceaselessly, whether you are aware of it or not, and that deliberate application changes destiny. This is where subtlety becomes profound, understanding that even moods, fleeting impressions, and habitual thoughts contribute to the fabric of your experience. This is how mastery begins, by observing the intimate dialogue between inner state and outer circumstance, noting the cause and effect of consciousness made visible. This is where insight illuminates the process, showing that revising your inner world, your self-conception, assumptions, and beliefs, is the quickest route to transforming reality. This is how patience and persistence gain meaning, as every sustained state gradually carves a corresponding reality from the unseen into form. This is where precision is vital, learning that vague wishes produce vague results, while exact imaginal acts externalize with surgical clarity. This is the revelation that externalization is not magic, but a natural consequence of law, a predictable reflection of the inner state. This is where confidence grows, as repeated experiments in conscious assumption yield unmistakable evidence of the inner world creating the outer. This is how transformation accelerates, moving from small, personal victories to sweeping changes in all areas of life. This is where imagination's authority is recognized, as your inner world is confirmed to be the ultimate reality in every domain. This is the moment realization crystallizes, where nothing external has independent power apart from your inner acceptance of it. This is how clarity and empowerment entwine, giving you a practical blueprint for deliberate living. This is where the foundation of conscious creation solidifies, proving that by governing your inner states, you hold the master key to the world you wish to experience. This is where the journey continues, guided by the undeniable truth that the inner world is the only reality, and everything else is but its faithful reflection. Now consider this. What if the very key to manifesting your desires lies not in effort, struggle, or waiting, but in assuming the feeling of your wish already fulfilled? And in this video, you will discover how the law of assumption transforms imagination into tangible reality with precision and ease. This is where it begins. The understanding that assumption is not a mere mental exercise, but a living state of consciousness that shapes the world around you. This is how it unfolds, revealing that sustained belief, no matter how unseen or improbable it appears, will eventually externalize as a fact. This is where clarity strikes, showing that the mind does not argue with imagination, but responds fully to what is convincingly assumed. This is why it matters, because by adopting the state of the wish fulfilled, you align every thought, emotion, and action to a reality that must manifest. This is where resistance fades, as you realize that opposition in the outer world is powerless against an inner state held firmly and consistently. This is how precision becomes power, where exactness of assumption dictates the quality and timing of externalization. This is where patience transforms, understanding that law operates invisibly, unseen, and yet unerringly in response to your assumed state. This is the turning point, where you stop attempting to force reality and begin to let reality conform naturally to the state you inhabit. This is where subtlety matters, learning to live fully in the end result while allowing circumstances to adjust around you. This is how mastery is cultivated, practicing assumption until it becomes second nature, a seamless extension of your being. This is where insight deepens, recognizing that outer appearances are irrelevant until they mirror the assumption held within. This is how freedom emerges, liberating you from dependence on external validation or timing. This is where power is confirmed, as the law of assumption demonstrates its reliability across all desires, relationships, and conditions. This is the moment understanding crystallizes, proving that the state you persist in internally is what externalizes in life. This is how faith is reinforced, as repeated evidence of fulfilled assumptions strengthens inner conviction. This is where confidence blooms, knowing that consistent assumption bypasses doubt and resistance entirely. This is how externalization accelerates, converting the imagined state into lived experience with elegance and inevitability. This is where imagination reigns supreme, and the outer world cannot help but reflect the reality assumed within. This is where the foundation of deliberate creation solidifies, proving that the law of assumption is the master key to manifesting any desired circumstance. This is where the journey continues, as the next layer of externalization reveals itself, showing how feeling, assumption, and imagination converge to create unshakable reality. Suppose you discover that imagination is not a mere escape from reality, but the very engine that constructs it. And in this video, you will learn how to wield imagination deliberately so that every thought and feeling becomes a blueprint for externalization. This is where it begins, recognizing that the world outside is nothing more than the mirror of your inner creative acts, and imagination is the tool that shapes that reflection. This is how it unfolds, showing that the mind's eye, when directed with feeling, has the power to convert invisible ideas into tangible circumstances. This is where clarity strikes, as you realize that all inventions, relationships, fortunes, and opportunities are first imagined before they are seen. This is why it matters, because once you understand imagination's central role, you no longer rely on external validation or effort to create outcomes. This is where resistance dissolves, for opposition in the outer world cannot withstand the energy of a fully realized imaginal act. This is how mastery begins, by deliberately entertaining the scene of your wish fulfilled until it becomes more real than the present moment. This is where subtlety sharpens, acknowledging that not just images, but the accompanying feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations fuel externalization. This is the turning point, when imagination ceases to be passive and becomes a living force actively shaping your life. This is where insight deepens, revealing that your habitual inner conversations are quietly manifesting the reality you currently experience. This is how freedom emerges, empowering you to create at will, independent of outer circumstances or other people's actions. This is where precision matters, as vague or hesitant imaginings produce diluted externalizations, while clear, vivid assumptions produce exact results. This is how faith is cultivated, by repeatedly witnessing imagination's invisible power objectifying itself in the physical realm. This is where confidence grows, as every fulfilled imaginal act strengthens the knowledge that creation begins within. This is how transformation accelerates, moving from small shifts in perception to sweeping, undeniable changes in your external world. This is where courage ignites, as you step fully into imagined realities without needing proof or approval. This is how the unseen becomes seen, as imagination, when charged with feeling, ceaselessly externalizes itself. This is where mastery unfolds, one deliberate imaginal act at a time, until your outer world mirrors the fullness of your inner states. This is where the journey deepens, showing that imagination is not just a mental exercise, but the divine faculty through which all reality is forged. This is where externalization finds its source, rooted entirely in the conscious and deliberate use of imagination as the ultimate creative power. Envision a world where every mood, every belief, and every subtle feeling you carry within you quietly sculpts the events of your life. And in this video, you will learn how the states you inhabit inwardly are the precise architects of your external reality. This is where it begins, understanding that externalization is not merely about actions or words, but about the sustained inner state that projects outward. This is how it unfolds, as you see that when you assume a state of confidence, love, or abundance, the outer world responds naturally to that energy, mirroring it in perfect fidelity. This is where clarity strikes, revealing that external circumstances are nothing but reflections of your habitual inner conditions, and shifting those states shifts the world around you. This is why it matters, because once you grasp this principle, no external problem is permanent, and no lack is inevitable. Your inner state always dictates outcomes. This is where resistance fades, as you recognize that clinging to outer appearances only delays or distorts the externalization of your desired state. This is how mastery begins, by learning to consistently inhabit the state corresponding to the reality you wish to experience. This is where subtlety sharpens, showing that fleeting moods, hidden doubts, and unnoticed assumptions all contribute to the patterns of your life. This is the turning point, when you stop attempting to manipulate circumstances externally and instead focus entirely on refining your inner state. This is where insight deepens, illustrating that externalization is automatic and inevitable when a state is fully assumed and felt. This is how freedom emerges, freeing you from dependency on people, events, or conditions to feel complete or fulfilled. This is where precision matters, as exact states produce exact realities and half-hearted or vague assumptions yield inconsistent outcomes. This is how faith is reinforced, as repeated inner alignment leads to undeniable evidence in the outer world. This is where confidence grows, recognizing that nothing external can overpower a fully inhabited state. This is how transformation accelerates, moving from small shifts in feeling to sweeping changes that redefine your entire life landscape. This is where courage is strengthened, because once you realize the power of inner states, fear loses its hold over you. This is how subtle energy becomes manifest, as the vibrational essence of your consciousness projects outward with absolute fidelity. This is where mastery unfolds, one deliberate state at a time, until your external world is the perfect reflection of your inner life. This is where the journey deepens, revealing that living in the right state is the ultimate key to effortless creation. This is where externalization reaches its purest form, a continuous, automatic process arising from the states you inhabit within. Think of the moment when you realize that every desire, every imaginal act, and every assumption you hold takes its own time to materialize. And in this video, you will understand why the interval between inner creation and outer manifestation is not a flaw but a natural rhythm of consciousness. This is where it begins, observing that externalization is never instantaneous, yet it is inevitable when the inner state is fully assumed. This is how it unfolds, as the seeds of imagination, once planted in feeling, require incubation before they sprout into visible reality. This is where clarity strikes, showing that impatience or doubt only distorts the timing, but not the eventual outcome of manifestation. This is why it matters, because understanding the delay removes frustration, allowing you to persist confidently in your assumptions. This is where insight deepens, revealing that time itself is subordinate to the state of consciousness, and outer events align according to inner readiness. This is how mastery begins, by cultivating unwavering faith and feeling the wish fulfilled even when no evidence appears externally. This is where subtlety sharpens, recognizing that the interval between cause and effect is not empty, but filled with unseen preparatory forces. This is the turning point, when you stop measuring success by immediate appearances and start trusting the invisible process. This is where freedom emerges, liberating you from external pressures and allowing creation to unfold naturally. This is how patience becomes power, as the inner state strengthens while the outer world catches up. This is where precision matters, sustaining exact assumptions so that delayed manifestation remains faithful to your intention. This is how faith is reinforced, as repeated experiences of fulfilled desires validate the reliability of the unseen law. This is where confidence grows, trusting that the interval is simply the gestation period for reality to reflect your inner assumption. This is how transformation accelerates, as you learn to inhabit the fulfilled state continuously without being swayed by temporary appearances. This is where courage is strengthened, knowing that persistence in feeling guarantees eventual externalization. This is how subtle energy solidifies, converting sustained inner states into eventual tangible outcomes. This is where mastery unfolds, as the understanding of timing removes all resistance and allows the law to operate with elegance. This is where the journey deepens, showing that patience combined with unwavering assumption is the ultimate catalyst for effortless manifestation. This is where externalization finds its rhythm, a precise and natural unfolding from inner creation to outer reality. Ask yourself what happens when you look at the world and realize that everything you see is not independent of you, but a perfect reflection of your own inner state. And in this video, you will learn how the mirror principle operates with unerring precision to externalize your consciousness into visible life. This is where it begins, noticing that every interaction, every circumstance, and every face you encounter is a projection of your inner attitudes and assumptions. This is how it unfolds, showing that the outer world is not a cause but an effect, faithfully reflecting whatever state you occupy within. This is where clarity strikes, as you see that the conditions, people, and events around you mirror your expectations, beliefs, and dominant feelings. This is why it matters, because once you grasp that the world is a mirror, you can deliberately adjust your inner state to shift everything you perceive externally. This is where subtlety sharpens, realizing that not only overt thoughts, but also unspoken moods and habitual feelings are continuously broadcast into reality. This is how mastery begins, by observing the correspondence between inner state and outer conditions and using it as a guide to deliberate creation. This is where insight deepens, showing that resentment, fear, or doubt manifests externally just as surely as love, confidence, or joy. This is how freedom emerges, as the power to change your life resides entirely in adjusting your inner consciousness, rather than attempting to manipulate external circumstances. This is the turning point, when you stop blaming the world and start assuming responsibility for the life you experience. This is where precision matters, because accurately identifying the inner state causing any reflection allows you to consciously transform it. This is how faith is reinforced, as repeated adjustments in inner state yield consistent changes in the mirrored world outside. This is where confidence grows, knowing that the mirror never lies and the world is always faithful to your consciousness. This is how transformation accelerates, moving from small tweaks in feeling to sweeping changes in life circumstances. This is where courage is strengthened, allowing you to face external challenges without fear, understanding that they reflect your own inner state. This is how subtle energy becomes manifest, converting thought and feeling into mirrored experiences effortlessly. This is where mastery unfolds, as deliberate control over inner states ensures consistent, predictable reflection in the outer world. This is where the journey deepens, revealing the power of conscious inner alignment to orchestrate the entire external landscape. This is where externalization finds its clearest evidence, proving that the world outside is nothing more than a faithful mirror of the world within. This is where the path of deliberate creation continues, guided entirely by the awareness of the mirror principle. Consider the possibility that every past event, every mistake, and every undesirable outcome can be rewritten in your imagination. And in this video, you will discover how the technique of revision allows you to alter already externalized experiences, proving that the creative power of consciousness transcends time. This is where it begins, understanding that what has occurred is not fixed, but merely a reflection of your prior state. And by revisiting it imaginatively, you can replace it with a new outcome. This is how it unfolds, as you mentally relive the moment, correcting it to align with the state you wish to have held at the time. This is where clarity strikes, revealing that the world outside is continually influenced by the state you occupy in memory, not just the present. This is why it matters, because by practicing revision, you transform the past, which in turn reshapes your present and future circumstances. This is where subtlety sharpens, showing that even small, vivid changes in mental scenes can cascade into profound shifts in perception and reality. This is how mastery begins, by consciously taking control of memory, imagination, and feeling to rewrite your narrative. This is where insight deepens, illustrating that guilt, regret, and resentment are states that reinforce unwanted externalization, but revision dissolves their power. This is how freedom emerges, liberating you from the weight of past errors and empowering you to live fully from the end you desire. This is the turning point, when you recognize that the past only holds influence as long as you allow its memory to dictate your current state. This is where precision matters, as careful, emotionally charged revision produces the most effective externalization. This is how faith is reinforced, as repeated practice demonstrates the reliability of imagination to reverse or transform events. This is where confidence grows, knowing that nothing is permanent outside of the states you continue to hold. This is how transformation accelerates, moving from theoretical understanding to practical, immediate impact on your life. This is where courage is strengthened, as you face memories without fear, reshaping them at will. This is how subtle energy becomes manifest, turning imagined correction into tangible change in the outer world. This is where mastery unfolds, one deliberate revision at a time, gradually reconstructing your life according to chosen assumptions. This is where the journey deepens, revealing that past, present, and future are all malleable within the creative imagination. This is where externalization proves its flexibility, demonstrating that your inner world is always sovereign. This is where deliberate creation extends beyond the now, allowing you to wield imagination as a tool to shape the continuum of your experience. Picture for a moment the mysterious world of dreams, where every scene, symbol, and emotion is an invisible thread linking your inner consciousness to the outer reality you will soon experience. And in this video, you will discover how dreams act as previews, blueprints, and confirmations of externalized states. This is where it begins, realizing that the dream state is not random, but a projection of your current assumptions, desires, and dominant feelings. This is how it unfolds, as images, characters, and narratives in dreams mirror unresolved inner states waiting to manifest in waking life. This is where clarity strikes, showing that paying attention to dreams allows you to recognize the seeds of future externalization long before they appear physically. This is why it matters, because by interpreting and aligning with the messages in dreams, you can consciously guide the materialization of your imagined reality. This is where subtlety sharpens, revealing that emotions felt in dreams carry the same creative charge as those felt in waking states. This is how mastery begins, by observing patterns, symbols, and recurring motifs in dreams and connecting them to inner states that shape external events. This is where insight deepens, showing that lucid engagement with dreams amplifies your ability to influence reality deliberately. This is how freedom emerges, allowing you to navigate both waking and sleeping states as domains of creation. This is the turning point, as you start to understand that externalization is constant, whether you are awake or asleep. This is where precision matters, because intentional focus on dreams strengthens your skill in consciously directing your imagination. This is how faith is reinforced, witnessing dreams manifest as subtle confirmations before their full physical expression. This is where confidence grows, knowing that the unseen world of dreams is a faithful indicator of inner alignment and future results. This is how transformation accelerates, as recurring dreams provide insight into states that need adjustment or reinforcement. This is where courage is strengthened, as you engage with the symbolic and unknown without fear, trusting its guidance. This is how subtle energy becomes manifest, translating dream experiences into tangible outcomes in waking life. This is where mastery unfolds, one deliberate connection between dream and reality at a time. This is where the journey deepens, revealing the invisible threads that link imagination, dreams, and externalization. This is where externalization extends beyond conscious action, showing that even in sleep, your states are shaping your world. This is where understanding reaches a new level, confirming that attention to dreams is a powerful tool for deliberate creation and conscious manifestation. Envision a moment when you realize that every fear, every resentment, and every doubt you entertain is quietly shaping the reality you experience. And in this video, you will learn how negative states of consciousness externalize unwanted events, circumstances, and relationships, often without your awareness. This is where it begins, understanding that externalization is impartial. It mirrors whatever state dominates your inner world, whether constructive or destructive. This is how it unfolds, revealing that holding on to anger or worry continually projects outcomes that match those states. This is where clarity strikes, showing that blaming external factors only reinforces the very circumstances you wish to escape. This is why it matters, because by failing to monitor your inner state, you inadvertently create a world filled with obstacles, setbacks, and disappointments. This is where subtlety sharpens, recognizing that even fleeting negative thoughts can accumulate, producing powerful effects over time. This is how mastery begins, by cultivating awareness of inner moods and correcting them before they manifest externally. This is where insight deepens, illustrating that external resistance is often a direct reflection of unexamined inner beliefs. This is how freedom emerges, as you learn to take full responsibility for what you allow into your consciousness. This is the turning point, when you understand that externalization is not a reward for effort, but a mirror of habitual states. This is where precision matters, as small adjustments in feeling and assumption prevent undesired manifestations. This is how faith is reinforced, observing that when negative states are corrected, the outer world responds accordingly. This is where confidence grows, knowing that you can reverse patterns of misfortune by deliberately choosing inner states. This is how transformation accelerates, converting worry, fear, and resentment into constructive, aligned energy. This is where courage is strengthened, allowing you to face challenges with the knowledge that your inner state determines the outcome. This is how subtle energy becomes manifest as the emotional and mental patterns you hold take shape externally with exact fidelity. This is where mastery unfolds, one conscious adjustment at a time, gradually replacing unwanted manifestations with desired ones. This is where the journey deepens, revealing the full responsibility and power of your consciousness in shaping life. This is where externalization demonstrates its impartiality, reflecting whatever you dominate internally. This is where the choice becomes yours, the opportunity to consciously create a world of harmony, abundance, and fulfillment through deliberate inner states. Can you imagine that the private dialogues you carry in your mind are quietly scripting the course of your life? And in this video, you will learn how inner conversations act as seeds that inevitably externalize into events, encounters, and circumstances beyond your imagination. This is where it begins, realizing that every sentence you repeat mentally, every thought you dwell upon, is a signal sent into the unseen to shape your outer world. This is how it unfolds, showing that habitual mental chatter, whether hopeful or fearful, forms the foundation for everything you experience. This is where clarity strikes, revealing that the inner conversation is far more powerful than spoken words, as it impresses the subconscious directly with the state it will later manifest. This is why it matters, because once you become aware of these inner dialogues, you gain the ability to consciously choose what seeds you plant. This is where subtlety sharpens, demonstrating that even unspoken self-talk, assumptions about others, or silent judgments contribute to the matrix of creation. This is how mastery begins, by monitoring, adjusting, and deliberately crafting the mental conversations that define your reality. This is where insight deepens as you recognize patterns that repeat unwanted circumstances and learn to replace them with dialogues aligned to your desires. This is how freedom emerges, liberating you from unconscious programming and the hidden forces of mental habit. This is the turning point, when thought becomes intentional, and imagination begins to dictate events with precision. This is where precision matters, because consistent, emotionally charged inner conversations produce stronger, faster externalization. This is how faith is reinforced, as observing subtle changes in reality confirms the power of deliberate, internal dialogue. This is where confidence grows, understanding that your mind is the fertile soil from which your entire life blossoms. This is how transformation accelerates, moving from reactive thinking to proactive creation of experiences you consciously desire. This is where courage is strengthened, empowering you to take full responsibility for every condition in your life. This is how subtle energy becomes manifest, translating carefully directed inner conversations into observable outer events. This is where mastery unfolds, one intentional thought at a time, shaping reality in alignment with your highest assumptions. This is where the journey deepens, revealing the intimate connection between inner speech and outer manifestation. This is where externalization proves itself daily, reflecting the consistent quality of your internal discourse. This is where deliberate inner conversation becomes the most effective tool for conscious creation and lasting transformation. Now consider this. What if the single most powerful force in manifesting your desires is not action, planning, or effort, but unwavering faith? And in this video, you will discover how faith acts as the catalyst that ignites imagination, propelling inner assumptions into visible reality with unstoppable force. This is where it begins, realizing that imagination alone, without the fuel of faith, lacks the power to externalize fully and consistently. This is how it unfolds, showing that faith is the energetic charge that animates your inner state, compelling the outer world to conform. This is where clarity strikes, revealing that doubt, hesitation, or skepticism weakens the signal sent from consciousness into the unseen. This is why it matters, because sustaining a state of absolute confidence in the fulfillment of your wish ensures its inevitable materialization. This is where subtlety sharpens, as faith is not mere belief, but a lived sensation of certainty, as if the desired reality already exists. This is how mastery begins, by cultivating an inner knowing that cannot be shaken by contradictory appearances or temporary setbacks. This is where insight deepens, demonstrating that faith accelerates the process of externalization by aligning emotion, thought, and imagination. This is how freedom emerges, freeing you from the tyranny of evidence, external validation, or the opinions of others. This is the turning point, when imagination charged with faith becomes irresistible, drawing circumstances and opportunities into precise alignment. This is where precision matters, because faith focused on a clear, specific assumption produces exact and predictable results. This is how confidence grows, as repeated experiences of fulfilled assumptions confirm the reliability of faith as the creative force. This is how transformation accelerates, converting mere mental pictures into living reality effortlessly. This is where courage is strengthened, allowing you to persist in your assumption regardless of outer appearances. This is how subtle energy becomes manifest, as faith acts as the conduit between your inner world and external reality. This is where mastery unfolds, one unwavering state of faith at a time, until manifestation becomes an automatic response to your inner conviction. This is where the journey deepens, revealing that faith is the indispensable spark that bridges imagination and externalization. This is where externalization is amplified, showing that belief in the unseen multiplies the potency of every imaginal act. This is where deliberate creation is secured, as faith ensures that your inner state inevitably transforms into outer experience. This is where the ultimate power of conscious manifestation is revealed, proving that faith is the catalyst that sets the machinery of reality into motion. Picture for a moment that the single most potent tool for manifesting any desire is not visualization alone, but the full immersion of feeling as if your wish is already fulfilled. And in this video, you will learn how feeling it real transforms imagination into undeniable reality. This is where it begins, recognizing that the mind does not differentiate between what is imagined vividly and what is physically experienced when the feeling is authentic and complete. This is how it unfolds, showing that the emotional intensity behind your inner assumption is what fuels its externalization with precision. This is where clarity strikes, revealing that intellectual belief alone is insufficient. The body and heart must participate fully in the assumption. This is why it matters, because the law of externalization responds to feeling, and the world cannot help but mirror the inner emotional state you inhabit. This is where subtlety sharpens, as even small lapses in feeling or inconsistent emotional engagement dilute the creative signal. This is how mastery begins, by practicing the art of entering the state of the wish fulfilled until it feels undeniably real in every fiber of your being. This is where insight deepens, showing that repetition of this practice trains the subconscious to accept the assumed reality as true. This is how freedom emerges, allowing you to stop striving or manipulating externally, and instead live fully in the fulfillment you desire. This is the turning point, when imagination charged with feeling becomes irresistible, compelling the outer world to adjust accordingly. This is where precision matters, as the quality, duration, and authenticity of feeling determine the accuracy of the manifested outcome. This is how faith is reinforced, as consistent application of feeling it real produces tangible evidence that imagination obeys the inner state. This is where confidence grows, knowing that mastery over feeling guarantees the externalization of chosen assumptions. This is how transformation accelerates, converting previously imagined scenarios into physical reality with elegance and speed. This is where courage is strengthened, as you trust the unseen process despite current appearances. This is how subtle energy becomes manifest, translating deeply felt assumption into visible results. This is where mastery unfolds, one fully felt imaginal act at a time, until the outer world consistently mirrors your inner fulfillment. This is where the journey deepens, revealing that feeling is the bridge between imagination and manifestation. This is where externalization reaches its most potent form, as the law responds to emotion more than to thought alone. This is where the ultimate principle of deliberate creation is realized. Feel it real, and it cannot fail to become. Envision a world where everyone is constantly creating, whether they realize it or not. And in this video, you will discover the difference between conscious and unconscious creation. learning how deliberate inner states produce intentional manifestations while unexamined habits unconsciously shape your life. This is where it begins, noticing that every thought, emotion, and assumption, even fleeting or unnoticed, is a seed sent into reality. This is how it unfolds, revealing that most people live reactively, allowing fears, doubts, and societal conditioning to dictate the circumstances they attract. This is where clarity strikes, showing that conscious creation requires awareness, attention, and the deliberate use of imagination to craft desired outcomes. This is why it matters, because once you distinguish between unconscious patterns and intentional acts, you reclaim control over your life and destiny. This is where subtlety sharpens, as even small habitual assumptions left unexamined can produce repeated undesired events. This is how mastery begins, by observing daily mental activity and deliberately aligning inner states with desired external results. This is where insight deepens, illustrating that externalization is always at work, but conscious creation allows it to serve your highest intentions. This is how freedom emerges, freeing you from the illusion that you are subject to forces outside your control. This is the turning point, when you understand that deliberate assumption accelerates externalization, while neglect and unconscious patterns create delay or misalignment. This is where precision matters, as focused and emotionally charged conscious acts produce the clearest, most predictable manifestations. This is how faith is reinforced, observing that outcomes faithfully reflect the states you inhabit intentionally versus those left to chance. This is where confidence grows, knowing that conscious creation always outperforms reactive, habitual patterns. This is how transformation accelerates, as deliberate internal alignment overrides previous unconscious conditioning. This is where courage is strengthened, empowering you to intentionally inhabit states that may feel unfamiliar, but are aligned with your highest desires. This is how subtle energy becomes manifest, as the invisible currents of thought and feeling are intentionally directed to shape external reality. This is where mastery unfolds, one deliberate assumption at a time, until unconscious patterns are replaced with conscious, chosen states. This is where the journey deepens, revealing the distinction between creating by default and creating by design. This is where externalization becomes a tool of empowerment, rather than an unexamined reflection of habit. This is where deliberate, conscious creation secures the life you choose, proving that awareness is the ultimate key to shaping reality. Envision a world where entire societies, nations, and cultures are simply reflecting the collective assumptions of their members. And in this video, you will discover how shared consciousness externalizes collective realities, showing that wars, prosperity, peace, and societal trends are manifestations of dominant group states. This is where it begins, realizing that externalization is not limited to individual creation, but operates on a grand, societal scale, mirroring the aggregate of inner assumptions. This is how it unfolds, as mass beliefs, habitual emotions, and shared fears or hopes shape the outer landscape with astonishing accuracy. This is where clarity strikes, revealing that historical events, cultural movements, and social norms are all reflections of dominant collective states. This is why it matters, because understanding collective externalization allows you to see society not as fixed or independent, but as an extension of consciousness you participate in. This is where subtlety sharpens, recognizing that even unconscious participation in group thought contributes to the reality being manifested externally. This is how mastery begins, by observing not just your own inner states, but also the prevailing assumptions of your environment. This is where insight deepens, showing that by aligning with constructive, visionary states, you can positively influence not only your life, but the larger collective reality. This is how freedom emerges, as you realize that you are never entirely subject to mass assumptions and can consciously choose inner states that resist destructive trends. This is the turning point, when you understand the responsibility inherent in participation, knowing that your inner life impacts the outer world more than passive observation suggests. This is where precision matters, because clear, consistent assumptions within your consciousness can subtly ripple outward, affecting communities and relationships. This is how faith is reinforced, observing that collective moods, whether hopeful or fearful, create predictable results on a societal level. This is where confidence grows, knowing that even one person consciously mastering their states can influence the broader environment. This is how transformation accelerates, as shifts in inner states at both individual and collective levels produce large-scale external change. This is where courage is strengthened, as you stand firm in your assumptions despite prevailing societal currents that may contradict your vision. This is how subtle energy becomes manifest, as the combined emotional and mental currents of many generate tangible outcomes across communities. This is where mastery unfolds, learning to navigate and influence both personal and collective creation. This is where the journey deepens, revealing the interplay between individual consciousness and the shared dream of humanity. This is where externalization expands beyond personal reality, demonstrating the interconnectedness of all minds in shaping the world. This is where deliberate, conscious states contribute to collective evolution, showing the immense potential and responsibility of consciousness at every level. Suppose you discover that persistence is not just effort, but the sustained maintenance of a chosen state until it externalizes fully. And in this video, you will learn how unwavering consistency in assumption and feeling is the engine that drives manifestation to completion. This is where it begins, understanding that fleeting thoughts or intermittent belief rarely produce lasting results. Only persistent states imprint reality with authority. This is how it unfolds, revealing that repeated, continuous assumption reinforces the subconscious, aligning it with the desired outcome. This is where clarity strikes, showing that the longer and more consistently you inhabit the feeling of fulfillment, the faster and more exact the outer manifestation. This is why it matters, because without persistence, even the most powerful imagination can dissipate before its reflection becomes tangible. This is where subtlety sharpens, recognizing that patience and repetition are as critical as clarity and intensity in creative work. This is how mastery begins, by committing to a state of consciousness as if it were already fact, no matter what the current appearance suggests. This is where insight deepens, illustrating that externalization is a process that unfolds in response to enduring inner alignment, not momentary desire. This is how freedom emerges, as persistence liberates you from doubt, indecision, and the influence of contrary external circumstances. This is the turning point, when you realize that consistent assumption eventually overrides all opposing evidence, bending reality to the state you inhabit. This is where precision matters, because only fully embodied, emotionally charged persistence produces exact outcomes. This is how faith is reinforced, witnessing that reality begins to shift when you refuse to abandon the assumed state. This is where confidence grows, knowing that unwavering attention and feeling guarantee manifestation. This is how transformation accelerates, as persistent states create momentum that manifests quickly and reliably. This is where courage is strengthened, empowering you to maintain inner conviction even amid external challenges. This is how subtle energy becomes manifest, as the continued vibrational signal of your inner state solidifies into external form. This is where mastery unfolds, one persistent assumption at a time, until your inner state dictates outer reality effortlessly. This is where the journey deepens, revealing that the key to turning imagination into reality is not sporadic effort, but steadfast inner continuity. This is where externalization proves its reliability, confirming that persistent inner states inevitably produce the external proof they promise. This is where the practice of deliberate, sustained assumption secures the ultimate power of conscious creation. Think of the moment when you realize that timing is not random, but a precise reflection of inner readiness. And in this video, you will discover how externalization follows its own perfect schedule, aligning circumstances with the maturity of your assumed state. This is where it begins, noticing that every manifestation occurs exactly when your consciousness is fully prepared to receive and embody it. This is how it unfolds, showing that impatience or forcing outcomes disrupts the natural rhythm of creation, while trust in timing enhances accuracy. This is where clarity strikes, revealing that delays are not denials, but periods of refinement, allowing the subconscious to harmonize with the assumed state. This is why it matters, because understanding the law of timing prevents frustration, doubt, and misalignment from interfering with your manifestations. This is where subtlety sharpens, recognizing that what seems like slow progress is often the unseen preparation of circumstances beyond your perception. This is how mastery begins, by cultivating patience, maintaining the assumed state continuously, and trusting in the perfect unfolding of events. This is where insight deepens, showing that alignment, rather than speed, governs successful externalization. This is how freedom emerges, allowing you to release control over the when and focus entirely on the what and how within your consciousness. This is the turning point, as you accept that law operates invisibly, timing everything with exact precision based on inner readiness. This is where precision matters, as keeping the feeling of fulfillment intact ensures the eventual manifestation aligns flawlessly with your inner state. This is how faith is reinforced, observing that even long-delayed desires eventually appear when the state is held consistently. This is where confidence grows, knowing that your assumption governs the outcome, not superficial appearances. This is how transformation accelerates, as patience combined with sustained inner alignment results in powerful, effortless creation. This is where courage is strengthened, trusting the unseen flow without succumbing to fear or doubt. This is how subtle energy becomes manifest, as inner alignment and readiness determine the exact timing of external events. This is where mastery unfolds, learning to harmonize your assumptions with the natural rhythm of manifestation. This is where the journey deepens, revealing that timing is not a limitation, but a tool of perfect orchestration. This is where externalization demonstrates its wisdom, unfolding only when the inner state is fully ripe. This is where trust in timing ensures that every manifestation arrives with maximum impact and resonance, reflecting the exact quality of your consciousness. Envision a world where desire fuels creation, but attachment can block it. And in this video, you will learn how the delicate balance between intense longing and calm detachment is essential for the seamless externalization of your assumptions. This is where it begins, realizing that desire sets the creative process in motion by giving imagination and feeling a target to focus upon. This is how it unfolds, showing that when desire is paired with desperation or anxiety, it creates resistance that delays manifestation. This is where clarity strikes, revealing that detachment does not mean indifference, but a serene confidence that the imagined state is already realized. This is why it matters, because the law responds to the harmony of desire and trust, producing results efficiently and without struggle. This is where subtlety sharpens, recognizing that craving creates tension, while relaxed expectation aligns you with the creative current. This is how mastery begins, by cultivating a passionate yet patient state, holding the end firmly in imagination while allowing life to rearrange itself naturally. This is where insight deepens, showing that the intensity of desire without emotional imbalance accelerates manifestation. This is how freedom emerges, as detachment liberates you from controlling the how and when of external events. This is the turning point when you realize that persistent, balanced assumption produces effortless and exact externalization. This is where precision matters, as the quality of your inner harmony directly shapes the fidelity of manifestation. This is how faith is reinforced, as steady desire combined with calm expectation consistently produces results. This is where confidence grows, knowing that true power lies in holding your imagined state without clinging or agitation. This is how transformation accelerates, converting longing into a tranquil, magnetic force that attracts its reflection. This is where courage is strengthened, trusting that the universe will respond to inner alignment rather than frantic effort. This is how subtle energy becomes manifest, translating balanced desire and detachment into precise, inevitable outcomes. This is where mastery unfolds, one moment of steady, passionate assumption at a time, until outer events mirror your inner serenity and focus. This is where the journey deepens, revealing that detachment is not surrender, but the secret ally of creation. This is where externalization demonstrates its elegance, flowing effortlessly when desire and detachment are perfectly intertwined. This is where deliberate, balanced inner states become the ultimate method for manifesting reality with precision and grace. Ask yourself, What happens when you realize that your consciousness is limitless, capable of generating infinite realities simultaneously? And in this video, you will discover how tapping into this boundless potential allows you to externalize desires without limitation or constraint. This is where it begins, understanding that every state you occupy is not restricted by the present moment or circumstances, but projects into infinite possibilities. This is how it unfolds, showing that imagination, when fully engaged and combined with feeling, can collapse multiple potentials into one chosen reality. This is where clarity strikes, revealing that the mind is not a passive receiver, but an active generator of all events, constantly shaping existence according to inner assumptions. This is why it matters, because recognizing the infinite capacity of consciousness empowers you to create deliberately rather than reactively. This is where subtlety sharpens, as even seemingly small shifts in assumption can redirect the course of countless possibilities. This is how mastery begins, by consistently inhabiting the state corresponding to the reality you wish to experience, no matter how expansive it seems. This is where insight deepens, illustrating that limitations exist only in perception, and consciousness itself knows no boundaries. This is how freedom emerges, as you awaken to the truth that your inner world can birth any experience without restriction. This is the turning point, when imagination becomes a vessel for infinite creation, and you realize that the universe is responsive to the scope of your inner vision. This is where precision matters, as focused, coherent assumptions guide the vast potential of consciousness toward specific outcomes. This is how faith is reinforced, observing that even audacious assumptions inevitably find expression when fully embraced. This is where confidence grows, knowing that your inner state is the ultimate determinant of reality without exception. This is how transformation accelerates, as the acknowledgement of limitless creative capacity expands your ability to externalize effortlessly. This is where courage is strengthened, as you claim the power to design realities beyond previously imagined limits. This is how subtle energy becomes manifest, converting the infinite possibilities within into visible and tangible experience. This is where mastery unfolds, one conscious choice at a time, harnessing the unlimited resources of mind and imagination. This is where the journey deepens, revealing that your inner reality is the infinite playground from which all externalization arises. This is where externalization demonstrates its boundless scope, proving that consciousness itself contains every possibility, waiting only for deliberate attention to emerge. This is where deliberate, limitless assumption becomes the ultimate tool for shaping reality in any form you desire. Now consider this. What if every principle you've learned, the power of imagination, the role of states, revision, persistence, faith, detachment, and infinite consciousness, could be seamlessly integrated into daily life? And in this video, you will discover how to live as a master of externalization, consciously creating each moment with intention and precision. This is where it begins, realizing that mastery is not a distant goal, but a continuous practice of aligning thought, feeling, and imagination with the reality you wish to inhabit. This is how it unfolds, showing that every interaction, decision, and perception can be consciously shaped when you consistently inhabit the state of the fulfilled desire. This is where clarity strikes, revealing that externalization is no longer mysterious or sporadic. It becomes a reliable, automatic reflection of your inner world. This is why it matters, because integrating these principles allows you to move through life with confidence, grace, and unwavering creative authority. This is where subtlety sharpens, recognizing that mastery is expressed not in grand gestures, but in the consistency of inner alignment across all areas of life. This is how freedom emerges, as you no longer wait for circumstances or others to determine your experience. You become the origin of all your reality. This is the turning point, when thought, feeling, and action converge seamlessly, producing outcomes that reflect your intentions with precision. This is where precision matters, because deliberate practice in daily life ensures the continuous and exact externalization of your chosen states. This is how faith is reinforced, witnessing that every inner adjustment produces immediate or inevitable outer confirmation. This is where confidence grows, knowing that mastery is not about controlling the world, but about controlling the states from which the world arises. This is how transformation accelerates, as small conscious shifts compound to produce profound, lasting change in every aspect of life. This is where courage is strengthened, empowering you to sustain aligned states despite challenges, distractions, or external chaos. This is how subtle energy becomes manifest, flowing effortlessly from internal alignment into tangible results in your surroundings. This is where mastery unfolds, as the habitual, conscious application of all principles turns creation into a natural, joyful, and effortless act. This is where the journey deepens, revealing that living in mastery is the culmination of understanding, practice, and inner discipline. This is where externalization becomes a continuous, living process, reflecting the integrity, focus, and vibrancy of your consciousness. This is where deliberate creation is perfected, as every thought, feeling, and assumption contributes harmoniously to the reality you experience. This is where the power of imagination, feeling, and faith merges into a singular, unstoppable force of creation. This is where the final truth emerges. You are the master, the creator, and the orchestrator of your entire world. And by living these principles, every moment becomes an opportunity to externalize the life you consciously choose.